In this video presentation, we will show you the wonders and miracles of the Quran, explaining why the Quran is God's book that knows the future, so you can witness these miracles with your own eyes. Throughout history, God has sent many prophets to different nations. From religious texts, we have observed that God sent prophets with miracles as a means of verifying that they were truly prophets and not charlatans or deceivers. The miracles they performed were beyond human capability, serving both as a challenge to disbelievers and as support for the prophets and believers. Each nation had its own unique skills, and God provided miracles in the realm that was popular among those people at that time, making it a challenge for them. For example, in the time of Moses, black magic was prevalent in Egypt, so God granted miracles in the domain of magic. During the time of Jesus, medicine was popular, and God provided miracles in the field of medicine. In the time of Muhammad, poetry was highly regarded, so the Quran surpassed poetry with its style. Since the Quran is a book intended to guide humanity until the Day of Judgment, God has placed signs in it for many generations after Muhammad, even for our present time, where modern technology and science are popular. In this video presentation, we will show how God has hinted at things, both linguistically and numerically, that we now use, even mentioning YouTube in the Quran, through which you are currently watching this presentation. God provides miracles through the Quran in the domain that is relevant to us today, to serve as a challenge for those who deny God and His book, the Quran, and as an instrument to strengthen the faith of believers, and as evidence for the sincere who seek proof of God's existence. First, we need to see how the Quran is written and how the words are pronounced in order to have a better understanding of what we will present regarding the miracles of the Quran. The original Quranic text is mostly written with consonants, similar to how we might write in English like this, and pronounced form. The Quran, how it is written, how it is pronounced. Pay attention to the letters D and A in the written form of this verse. The verse is talking about something else, as you can see in the translation, and found one of our servants, a man to whom we had granted our mercy, and whom we had given knowledge of our own. Here we see that this is double information in the same text. The verse speaks about a man from the time of Moses, while in the original text, the letters D and A are embedded within known Arabic words several times in this verse 1865, corresponding to the year 1865 when the science of genetics began with Gregor Mendel. Double information codings in the same text. How is this done in the Quran? Let me give you an example of how Quranic numerical programming works. Let's say I write a sentence. Chapter 18, verse 65. Edna was a beautiful girl who helped the poor and orphans in Ednabel City in ancient times. Now, let's say I know the future. Even though I am providing information about this girl Edna in Ednabel, I also choose to place this at chapter 18, verse 65. Additionally, I deliberately include the letters D and A in two words, Edna and Ednabel, only at this specific place in the entire book, out of 6,236 verses, to correspond with the future year when the science of DNA will officially begin, in year 1865. This is how Quranic numerical programming works, offering double layers of information. Providing double information is an amazing and strong example that this book was sent by a supreme being. It tells a useful story from the past for people to learn from, while at the same time programming information about the future within the same text. When future generations witness these events with their own eyes, it can strengthen their faith in the book and even make them believe in life after death. After all, if I know about the future and inform them about it, they will have witnessed my knowledge with their own eyes when these programmed facts appear in reality. Now that we understand how the Quran was written and what the codings of double information within the same text are, It will be easier for us to comprehend the examples of double information codings that we will now present, which are prophecies and miracles of the Quran. Prophecy about YouTube in the Quran. Arabic written word YouTube can be written like this: YouTube. This word is the closest you can get to the word YouTube. This word is the 2005th word in this chapter 9, and we know that YouTube was founded in the year 2005. Why is this an intentional prophecy and not just a coincidence? Since we have seen other future events being coded in the Quran, we can assume that this is also intentionally coded. This word, which hints at YouTube, occurs 7 times among 2,498 words in this chapter. The chance that this is a coincidence is 7,498 equals 0.0028, which is only 0.28%, not even 1%. The Arabic script allows for a variety of words and names to be formed by inserting different vowels, diacritics, into the same consonantal root. For the root letters H-A-M-D, E-M-H-M-D from the name, 4 letters Muhammad but pronounced Muhammad. Here are some examples of how different vowel placements create different words and names. Muhammad, Muhammad. This is the most common form, meaning praised one. Mahmad, Mahmad. Although less common, it can mean praiseworthy or praise. Muhammad, Muhammad. This could be interpreted as one who praises. Muhammad, Muhammad. This can mean one who praises or praiseworthy. In classical Arabic, context and the presence of diacritics determine the exact pronunciation and meaning. The consonantal root remains the same, but the addition of different vowels modifies the word's meaning and pronunciation. The Arabic word yatub, which means he repents or he seeks forgiveness, consists of the root letters itb, ytb. By changing the vowels, various forms and meanings can be derived from the same root. Here are some examples. Yatub, Yatub, he repents. Yatubu, Yatubu. This form is not standard in Arabic, but could be a dialectal or less common variation. Yutab, Yutab, he is made to repent. Yatab, Yatab, could be interpreted as a form meaning he is repentant. Yatab, Yatabu, could imply he is being forcefully led to repent, though this is not a standard form. The meaning and grammatical usage change with the addition or alteration of vowels and diacritics, demonstrating the flexibility and richness of the Arabic language in creating various forms from a single root. So, if we write this word YouTube with these vowels, we get this YouTube, YouTube, and this is the only word that sounds like YouTube in the Quran. Before the letters of NATO, there are 1,949 letters. NATO was created in the year 1949. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, is a military alliance established in 1949, sought to create a counterweight to Soviet armies stationed in Central and Eastern Europe after World War II. The balance is mentioned so that people can uphold justice. Steel, which is an alloy made from iron, is the most commonly used metal in the military industry. The verse mentions iron and its mighty strength. When we put this part of the Quran into Google Translate, you can clearly see the word NATO here. So, what are the chances that there are 1,949 letters before the word NATO, and NATO was formed in the year 1949? It is too much to be just a coincidence, especially when we already have many similar codings like this in the Quran. In this post, there will be a derivation of the date of the sinking of the ship Titanic. As is known, this event is very famous and historically rare, and almost everyone in the world knows about it. Therefore, it is expected to see an indication or prophecy of this event in the Quran. The following verse has the sequence of Titanic as follows. Titanic, John Smith. Very interestingly, after this verse to the end of the Quran, there are 1,912 verses, while the Titanic sank in the year 1912, which was its end. The name of the captain of the Titanic was Edward John Smith. The captain of Titanic was responsible for the overall command and navigation of the ship, in other words, to give guidance on the correct path to the destination. Theory hinted by God in the Quran. This is the only occurrence of Darwin theory in the Quran, Islamic Hijri lunar year 1276, which is the Gregorian year 1859, is when Darwin published his popular book Origin of Species, and with it started the theory of evolution. What are the chances that in a chapter with 4,980 letters, Darwin's theory is found at the 1,276th letter, and that was the Hijri Islamic year 1276, which equals Gregorian 1859, when he published his book about the theory of evolution? Is this not proof for you that God is aware of everything? This theory is very harmful because it is used by atheists for their agenda. What we see here is that God knew that this person, Charles Darwin, would come up with his theory of evolution in the year 1859, so he coded it in his book, the Quran, more than 1,000 years before Darwin was born. Foundation of BMW hinted numerically in the Quran, verse 5675, third word, preceding 7 letters BMW. As you can see, letter W is the 1334th letter in this chapter. So, when we start to read from the beginning to the letter W in BMW, we have read 1334 letters. It was the Islamic lunar year 1334 when BMW was founded, which was March 7, 1916. The official founding date of the German motor vehicle manufacturer BMW is March 7, 1916, when an aircraft producer called Bayerische Motoren Werke AG was formed. Foundation of Audi hinted numerically in the Quran, verse 1317. First time Audi appears in the Quran. Hijri Islamic lunar year 1317 was the Gregorian year 1899. When did August Horch create his company in 1899? August Horch founded his first company, A. Horch and Company, on November 14, 1899, in Cologne, Germany. This company laid the foundation for his later ventures in the automotive industry, eventually leading to the creation of the Audi brand. Nike coded in the Quran. The first time the consonant letters of Nike occur in this formation, verse 4, 1, 2, 3. From the word Nike, pronounced Niyik, Arabic Bimaniyikum, to the end of the verse, there are 19 words and 64 letters, while Nike was created in 1964. If you put a fatha above the letter N, the word is pronounced Nake. Verse 6, 23. Before the word Nike, there are 1,383 letters from the beginning of the chapter. In the Islamic Hijri calendar, the year 1383 corresponds to the year when Nike was created, which is 1964. Of Nobel Foundation and first Nobel Prize coded in the Quran. The Nobel Prize is named Nobel to honor the scientist Alfred Nobel. The first Nobel Prize was given in the year 1901 historically. The sequence of Nobel in the following form is repeated in some positions, but only in the following verse is it repeated twice with the most repetition, verse 47-31. Very precisely, from the beginning of the chapter to the sequence of Nobel in this verse, there are exactly 1,901 letters, while the first Nobel Prize was given in the year 1901. The meaning of this verse also hints at the Nobel Prize. The meaning is as follows. We shall test you to see who strives hard for the cause of Allah and the patient ones. And we shall test your news, wa information, ma knowledge, ei, the one who is a liar, and the one who is truthful. The verse speaks about a test, and as we know, The Nobel Prize is awarded to the best scientists in a specific field, which means the Nobel Prize is given to a person who ranks first in discoveries. Scientists must test their findings before they receive the Nobel Prize for them. The following verse has the sequence of Nobel from left to right, with a longer version as follows. Verse 26, 227. Here, the sequence of Nobel is the 1318th word from the beginning of the chapter. The Nobel Foundation was created in the Islamic year 1318, which was the year 1900. Of Bitcoin Foundation coded in the Quran. The following verse has the sequence of Bitcoin as follows. Verse 10:21. This is the only occurrence of Bitcoin in this formation in the entire Quran, as Bitcoin. After the sequence of Bitcoin to the end of the chapter, there are 1,433 words, and the Hijri Islamic year 1433 is equal to 2012 in the Gregorian calendar, the year when the Bitcoin Association was founded. Windows operating system hinted in the Quran. As is known, Bill Gates is the first person who programmed an operating system, and this system is the most widely spread among its users. Bill Gates named this operating system Windows because it was opening new windows in the life of humanity. The word Windows is the plural of the word window, and this name became a brand name, which is a special name, meaning that in all languages it is named as Windows. We searched for the word Windows in the Quran and found that it only appeared once in the entire Quran in the singular form, as window. The verse is as follows. 59:7. A very interesting fact about the position of the sequence of window. Here is that from the end of the verse to the sequence of window, there are 19 words and 85 letters, which, when brought together, makes 1,985. The first version of the Windows operating system was also released in 1985. Another interesting fact is that this same verse, which contains the sequence window, also hints at the sequence Bill, while the designer of the Windows operating system is Bill Gates. Microsoft Word program first releasing year hinted in the Quran, verse 1232. The letters forming the word Word occur only twice in the whole Quran. This is the first occurrence of the word Word in a verse, which has 19 words and 83 letters, while Microsoft Word was first released on October 25, 1983. Python and its creator's name coded in the Quran. The following verse has the sequence of Python as follows. Verse 41.28, Jido, Van, and Python. Very precisely, this verse is the 1991st verse from the end of the Quran, while the Python program was first released in the year 1991. The name of the founder of the Python programming language is Guido van Rossum. Eiffel Tower hinted in the Quran. The following verse has the sequence of Eiffel from left to right as follows. Verse 1083. Very precisely, the height of the Eiffel Tower is 1,083 feet, while the number of this verse that has the sequence of Eiffel is also 1083, indicating 1,083 feet. The sequence of Eiffel is also in a word that means high. The following verse also has the sequence of Eiffel, verse 18 in the chapter 87. This verse's number is 18, and inside chapter number 87, which may indicate the year 1887 when the Eiffel Tower started to be built. Mahal hinted in the Quran. The following verse has the sequence of Taj and Mahal in the same word as follows. Verse 1011. This portion of the word contains the sequence of Taj and Mahal together inside the same word. This word's position from the end of the chapter is 1653, which corresponds to the year when the construction of the Taj Mahal was completed, exactly in 1653. protein with coded molar mass mentioned in the Quran, verse 244. This is the only time in the entire Quran where the word protein is mentioned in a verse that also mentions mankind. Humans use 20 amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. From the beginning of the verse to the last letter of the word protein, there are 20 letters. Arabs don't have the letter P, so they use the letter B instead. The first letter B equals P in protein is the 2738th letter in this chapter, and the total molar mass of 20 amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins, is 2,738 grams per mole. Molecular mass coded in the Quran. The following verse has the sequence of lactosa from left to right as follows. Verse 47. Before the sequence of lactose, there are 342 letters in the chapter, while the mass of the lactose molecule is also approximately 342 grams per mole. Anesthetic drug. Ketamine coded in the Quran. Consonant letters for ketamine KTMN read from left to right, verse 12:31. Ketamine is a medication that has been used for various purposes, primarily as an anesthetic and analgesic. Anesthesia refers to the medical practice of inducing a reversible loss of sensation or consciousness to prevent patients from feeling pain or discomfort during surgical or medical procedures. The formula for ketamine is C13H16ClNO. It has 32 atoms. From the beginning of the verse to the consonant letters for ketamine, there are 32 letters and the whole verse has 32 words.
Discovery of microbes announced in the Quran. Verse 27:8. Only time mentioned in the Quran, microbe. This word is 1085th word, from the end of the chapter. Islamic Hijri year 1085, was the Gregorian year 1674. The first microbe, protozoa, was discovered in the year 1674 by Dutch scientist Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Elementary particle coded in the Quran. The word Torah occurs most frequently in chapter 12 out of the 114 chapters in the Quran. Chapter 12 has 1,777 words, while the Torah particle has a mass of 1.777 giga-electron volts per c² or 1,777 mega-electron volts per c². What is the chance that the word Torah occurs most frequently in the chapter with 1,777 words? While the elementary particle Torah has a mass of 1,777 mega-electron volts per c². As you can see here, how the word Torah is written in the Quran and in the Arabic lexicon. ChatGPT. Was there any chance for people in the 7th century, anywhere on Earth, to detect elementary particles like Torah and know its mass? ChatGPT answered, no, it would have been impossible for people in the 7th century, anywhere on Earth, to detect elementary particles such as the Torah lepton, or to determine its mass. The scientific understanding and technological capabilities required for detecting and studying elementary particles emerged much later in human history. GPT. Who named the elementary particle Torah for the first time? ChatGPT answered, the Torah lepton, one of the fundamental particles in the standard model of particle physics, was named by physicist Martin Lewis Pearl. Pearl, an American physicist, discovered the Torah lepton in 1975 while conducting experiments at the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center in California. Mu'an coded in the Quran. Verse 39:69. After the word Mu'an, there are 105 words to the end of the chapter, so Mu'an is part of the 106th word, from the end of the chapter. A muon is an elementary particle, which has a mass of 105.6583755 mega-electron volts per square of the speed of light. Boson Z coded in the Quran. Verse 5, 106. 91 letters to the end of the verse after the word boson, while science says boson Z has a mass of 91.1876 giga-electron volts per square of the speed of light. Unit of measurement micro announced in the Quran. Micro is a unit prefix in the metric system, denoting a factor of 10 to the power of -6, 1/1,000,000th, confirmed in 1960. The prefix comes from the Greek word mikros, meaning small. As you can see, the word micro is mentioned most frequently in chapter 6, a total of 3 times. Not only that, but the only verse in the Quran where the word micro is mentioned twice is chapter 6, verse 123. This is a double hint within chapter 6. Micro can be written as 10 to the power of -6 or 0.000001, with 6 zeros. To have the word micro mentioned most often in chapter 6, and to have the only verse with a double mention of the word micro in chapter 6, is a clear indication of the unit of measurement micro, which is 10 to the power of -6 or 0.000001. Of measurement nano announced in the Quran. When we search the letters of nano sequentially inside the whole Quran, we see that the word nano is repeated exactly 9 times, inside 9 verses, inside 9 chapters. The number 9 is very crucial to describe a nanometer, because the magnification factor of 10 to the power of -9 from nanometer to meter, which is our reference measurement unit, is exactly the power of the number 9. Who could have known what nano is in the 7th century anywhere in the world? Who could have known how this unit of measurement would be defined by 9 zeros in the future, in 1960? Only God, who knows the future, could code his book like this. So coded in the Quran. Verse 2, 217. Femto occurs only here in the entire Quran, and is the 15th word from the end of the verse. Femto is a prefix in the international system of units, denoting a factor of 10 to the power of -15 or 0.00000000000001. It comes from the Danish word, 15, meaning 15. First iPhone prophesied in the Quran. As you can see, the word telephone can be read in the blue section, while close to it. iPhone can be read from left to right and is also part of the 29th word in the verse. That word is the 29th in the verse, and the 2007th word in the Quran, which cannot be a coincidence, and God knows best. The revolutionary first iPhone was released on June the 29th, 2007. What are the chances that the word, iPhone, read backwards in the verse? Is the 2007th word in the Quran while being part of the 29th word in the verse, matching the release year and day? Purpose of God encoding future events in the Quran that we see today with our own eyes. The purpose is to show humanity that the Quran is his book, that God knows the future, so you can witness it with your own eyes and hands. These numerical prophecies are meant to be a challenge to disbelievers and to strengthen the faith of believers. When we read the Quran, and God speaks about the judgment day, paradise, and hell in the future, we can be certain that these events will happen, just like we have seen all these examples in this video, which God knew would come in our time, and that we have detected in the Quran.